Imagine soaring over the countryside, looking down upon the earth, not 30,000 feet above everything, but low enough to see the farmer in the field.
At one time, this may have been no more than a dream, but today it's a reality for many who did not have the resources to fly. Today, there may be a solution that allows more people to fly and possibly even own their own aircraft. That's really what sports piloting is about. Hi, I'm Phil Lenahan of The Better Part.
And I'm Marilyn Priel, and we invite you to join us for this week's show, Adventures in Sports Flying. We're coming to you from Hollister Municipal Airport, where a group of flying enthusiasts have gathered to socialize and share their passion for sports flying. Stay tuned while The Better Part takes to the air.
Welcome to The Better Part, a program that encompasses a diverse spectrum of topics important to our community, which we hope will both inform and entertain you. We invite you to sit back and enjoy the program.
I'm speaking with John Feemster, and he's chief pilot here at this local Chapter 110, and he's also the flight advisor. So I've got a lot of questions of you, John. First of all, I need for you to tell us, what is sport flying?
Well, sport flying is a light aircraft that will do most of the things that normal aircraft will do, but it's pretty much specifically pointed toward recreational type of activity.
Is there any weight limit to how the size of these and so forth?
Yes, there's a specific set of regulations that FAA has issued that will define a sport aircraft. This particular one here used to be an ultralight aircraft trainer. Because of its weight and so forth, it now qualifies as being a sport aircraft. But all of these aircraft that you see along the line here are all sport craft.
I see something up here. You have some kind of a radio, a crash radio?
Well, all sports craft by FAA regulation will have a radio, which is an emergency radio, that will automatically turn on if you crash the aircraft. It exhibits a beacon so that anyone who would be out in a rescue mode would be able to hear the beacon and help find you.
That's wonderful. And then behind us is a special parachute. Tell us about that.
Early on in the ultralights, since they were not a regulated design, it became essential for safety to maybe have some way of getting down safely if something went wrong with the aircraft. So some people designed a parachute that would let the whole aircraft and the pilot down all in one piece.
And then a sports pilot, what do they have to do other than
be a sports
jump
pilot?
In a plane? Yeah, I mean, do they have to take flying lessons and get licenses and
well,
so forth?
you must have a license. Can you have a sports license without taking lessons? Yes, if you're moving down from being a general aircraft pilot. If you're moving up or you're beginning, you must have at least 20 hours of flight, 15 with an instructor, and 5 solo, that is restricted flight area, but flying on your own so as to show proficiency.
The people we're talking with today are members of the Experimental Aircraft Association. It's international, I understand, with about 1,000 chapters worldwide, and yours is I think it's called the South Bay Ultralight Chapter 110. Is that correct?
That's pretty good definition.
Okay.
Yes.
And tell us about your chapter.
Well, our chapter was originally initiated because a bunch of us people decided we'd like to fly. And so the first thing that we could get our hands on would have been an ultralight aircraft. So we joined ourselves together to share experiences and to learn from one another.
Now, how many members are in this local chapter, and how could one become a member?
Well, the membership is open to anyone who wants to come in, whether you fly or not. If you have an interest and follow the proceedings or just share in the standard old thing of hangar talk.
Mm-hmm. Planes,
yes,
whatever.
so you come in and you can be a member, and our fees are terribly, terribly expensive. I think they're $25 a year.
Oh.
And so that's the part of becoming a member. The number of members that we have varies, but we're usually somewhere around 30 to 50, according to who's in, who's hasn't moved away, or us older guys who hasn't retired out of the position.
Well, I imagine you have, like you say, some people who love mechanics and like to build them. Other people like to fly. And we want to meet some of these exciting pilot members and see their planes. So can we do that now?
You sure can, and I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised in all the variety of people that are here, their experience. We've had people from World War II pilots. We've had people who've just learned to fly, and I'm one of those, generally speaking, who's just been learned. I've only been flying for about 22 years.
Is that all?
Yeah,
Just a babe.
just a babe in the woods.
Well, thank you so much, John. It was a pleasure talking with you.
You're welcome, and I hope you have a good time today.
Thank you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We're here with Frank Ducker, who's going to tell us about this little toy that he built himself. I don't know whether everybody around here seems to be building their own airplanes. So, Frank, tell us about this wonderful piece of equipment.
Good morning, Phil. This airplane is called a Kolb Mark III Extra, and it took me 10 years to build. I got it as a kit, and it came in one big box and a big long tube. And I had to cut all the rivets and the ribs and rivet them all together.
How many rivets?
Approximately 5,000 rivets.
So you brought somebody in to do the riveting?
No. I did it all myself. I had a rivet gun and attached all the rivets, and it's called pop rivets. So you just put the gun on and they pop into place.
Oh, one question I do have. I'm looking at this airplane, and you have the engine on backwards.
Well, that's a design feature. It's actually called a pusher airplane, and the engine fits up behind the pilot, and the wings fold backwards, and you can put this on a trailer and take it home with you if you want to do that. But I really liked this airplane. It had 2 seats, and I always wanted to take people up flying with me when I go flying, so I'm ready to take people up.
Where do you normally fly, Frank?
I fly out of Reed Hillview, but since I finished this project, I have this stationed in Hollister.
Now, as you're building it, I understand that don't you have to have it inspected at various stages of construction?
That is very advisable, and we had the EAA chapter come down, and I had people inspect my airplane and tell me a few things to fix, but I also had the FAA come down before they gave me my final airworthiness certificate.
Thank you, Frank. It's fun to talk to all you pilots down here, building your own airplanes and flying all over the place. Thanks again.
Thanks, Phil.
I'm speaking with Don Wiggins. He's a World War II pilot, and he's 94 years old. He's still flying, and he's just won a nice award from this local Chapter 110. It says, Light Sport Pilot since 2001, being the most senior pilot and light sport builder. And you were telling me that you built this plane right behind us. How long did it take?
It took me approximately 2 years.
You told me a little earlier that it was supposed to take 250 to 500 hours. It took more like 1,000 hours to finish it.
Yes, they advertised that I could put it together in, as I remember, it was 500 hours. But I think that all told, I've probably put more than 2,000 hours.
One of the people told me before you arrived today that you had been in World War II, you had been an instructor on how to survive airplane crashes.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well, when I went into the service, I was originally a caliber 50 instructor, but I didn't care for it, and I met a forest ranger that I had met before World War II, and he said told me I was in the wrong outfit. I should join his company, and I interviewed and I got accepted to teach people how to survive in the Arctic. I had loaded a TD-9 International tractor into the first of the flying boxcar airplanes, and we lost an engine on takeoff, and the plane crashed, and the tractor went out through the nose of the airplane.
So you put your training that you had in the military, you actually got to use it then?
Yes. Yes.
Well, that's pretty exciting. And how long have you been in this? You've been in this group since 2001? Hold this up. Let's take a good picture of your certificate here. Thanks, Don. I'll be happy to have a hamburger later with you at the barbecue.
Oh, okay.
Hi, we are now standing here with Tim Floyd and his marvelous airplane that he has built called Legal Eagle. Tim, just give us some of the highlights of, let's start with the engine. What was it originally?
This was a VW engine, a full four-cylinder VW engine, and I had to cut the back section off of the crankshaft inside this motor to make a half VW.
Did you actually did it yourself? You didn't farm any of this work out, did you?
No, I have a full machine system in the back here at the hangar, so I'm able to do all my own work, build all the parts, manufacture all the parts for my airplane.
Tell us about the propeller.
I started building propellers when I was about 18 years old, actually. I got into the gyrocopters, and so I built my own propeller. I built my own propeller machine actually to copy a blank that I make the pitch out of, and so I'm able to reproduce the pitch on the props.
I can see easy enough. This is made out of what type of wood?
This is a maple. There's various types of wood you can use for propellers. Mahogany is one. You can use birch. That's very common for propeller building.
Okay, now I can understand cutting out the wood and everything, but a propeller has to be perfectly balanced, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. This is basically just a static balance on a balance beam using a rod in between the center portion of the hub, and is close enough. It's balanced in all different angles, vertically as well as horizontally.
Good luck, Tim. I'm going to be going up in one of these later today, and I wish you all well, and it's a beautiful piece of work, and I thank you for being with The Better Part.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you interviewing me and looking at my aircraft.
Stephen Mann,
Yes.
there's a possibility that you are the playboy of Chapter 110 because I hear you have a lot of toys.
That's the rumor. It's just a rumor.
And I hear you bought a plane before you learned to fly.
That's true. Actually, it wasn't even a real plane. It was just a bunch of parts. I had to put it together.
So you like to build planes.
It is fun. It's very. It's an activity that has its own result. That it appeals to a lot of people, and in some cases, there's an into it. After you build the thing, you actually get to fly it, and for me, that's a double bit of pleasure involved.
I'm hearing a lot of things about you, but I heard that you bought this plane, a plane, and your first plane, and didn't like it.
Well, I did like it for a while.
Oh, is that it?
Absolutely.
So you're fickle with your planes, is that it?
You tend to change your perception of what it is that you enjoy
Yes.
over time, and I certainly did. My first airplane was very similar to John Feimster's, except it was actually a single seat and even slower than his. So if you think in terms of what an airplane will do, that one wouldn't do much. Maybe 35 miles an hour. And yes, it would climb. I once took it up to, I think I got that thing up to 9,500 feet. And it took me almost an hour to come down. But I also found it landing at, for example, 15 miles an hour in a strong wind. And you see the runway out there.
You feel a little bit like the Wright brothers or something.
But, and it becomes then, oh, I want to go faster, I want to go higher, I want to go farther. And that was the second airplane. But it only went a certain amount faster and a certain amount higher and so on. So now I'm...
So this one, you're happy with this
Yes.
one? Okay, it's a keeper then.
Yes,
for the time
this is my
being.
ultimate
For
plane.
the time being.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad you're having fun with it, and
Thank
thanks
you.
for talking with us.
Thank
and
you for talking with me.
We'll see you over at the lunch.
Excellent. Looking
With
forward
the
to it.
barbecue.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Marilyn.
Okay.
Hi there, we're here with Griffin MacArthur, and we're going to chat a little bit about his airplane. And it is slightly different than the other ones we've been looking at all day. Why don't you, Griffin, tell us about, this is a factory airplane, correct?
That's right. It's a SLSA category aircraft, so it's a manufactured aircraft made in Italy, actually. And this particular one is well suited for flight instruction, training, and has tow brakes, which a lot of the light sport category aircraft don't have. You can do things like spin training in it.
Excuse me, what is spin training?
Right, okay, so if you get into a stalled condition in an airplane and you allow it to continue being stalled and a wing dips or you're cross-controlled, the plane will go into a spiral. And it's a great thing to practice the recovery technique for
I
obvious
would imagine so.
Yeah, but most light sport category aircraft, they prohibit spin training. So this is one of the few where you're allowed to do spin training as a flight instructor.
As a factory manufactured airplane, do you have broader rules and regulations on what you can do in this?
There is what's called a consensus standard, an ASTM standard, that defines the light sport category, defines the capabilities of the aircraft, and some limitations. For example, it can't have a max gross weight of more than 1,320 pounds, can't have more than 2 seats, so single passenger. And also in cruise flight, it needs to be limited to under 120 knots in cruise.
How much fuel can you carry?
This one will have, with full tanks, 26 gallons, and with a fuel burn of about 4 to 5 gallons an hour, gives you a nice range. You can fly for 4 to 5 hours easily. So I often fly down to Southern California, for example, from here to San Diego without having to stop for any fuel.
And what got you into light sport aircraft?
Part of it is the economy of flying them. They're really fun to fly. They're very responsive aircraft. And for flight training, we've got a flight school over at Watsonville. The operating costs are much lower than they are for the kind of airplane that I first learned to fly in, a Cessna 172, for example. Burns 8 to 10 gallons an hour. These are burning 4 to 5 gallons an hour, and we can use automotive fuel, 91 octane MOGAS it's called, instead of the 100 low lead fuel that most aircraft have to use.
You mentioned training. You can only train in this for light sport aircraft, or can you do your beginning training for regular aircraft?
Good question. You can do your training for a private pilot, and you can even do instrument training in these aircraft if they're suitably equipped.
So not only do you get the economy, you get to save the trouble of building the thing. Just another question, do you ever go back to Oshkosh?
Absolutely. This was my 3rd year going to Oshkosh, or was it the 4th actually? The first year I flew out there in a 172. Second year I went up back in an RV6, that's right. This is my 3rd year flying out there. So, I'm planning to do it again.
Explain to our viewers, what is Oshkosh?
Oshkosh is the biggest fly-in and air show in the United States. Thousands and thousands of aircraft of every description, from warbirds to light sport to fully certified aircraft. A lot of the major aircraft companies have planes on display there, and plus all the home builds. So the EAA, Experimental Aircraft Association, is the one that hosts the event in Oshkosh, Wisconsin.
And where did you fly in from for this little barbecue picnic we're having?
This was a short hop. We came from Watsonville, which is just over the hills. So it was a very quick flight. And we were lucky, too, that we've got beautiful blue skies today. Sometimes this time of year we get a bit of the overcast. So
You could have almost taxied over.
Almost. There's a few mountains in the way, and it would have taken a bit longer. But
Well, Griffin, thank you very much for being with us on the better part, and good luck in your flying, and stay safe.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Well, I'm here with Blade Doyle, strapping myself in. That assumes if I can find the buckle down here someplace. For my adventure in sports flying. I can't wait. So here we go. We're revved up, and we're heading down the runway. I realize this is not exactly United Airlines, but there we are. We're airborne. We're about to turn east over Hollister here, and what we're going to see is the Hollister Corn Maze and Haunted Ranch, which is a great place to come on Halloween. These are all little places you can run around and get lost in. Beautiful. We're now joined here by Tim Floyd and Legal Eagle. Just watching him reminds me of the days of the old barnstorming across the country in the 1920s, which was really the first form of civil aviation. Hey, doesn't that look beautiful out there? We saw the shot before in the show just talking to him. Just floating over. Now here are some shots taken from Legal Eagle across the Hollister countryside. It's just beautiful to be at this altitude and see the streams and the trees and all the cattle down there, and it's kind of like hiking on steroids. Just going across the Hollister hillsides here. Look down there, there's all the cattle grazing and the hills, and it's just beautiful up here. Just look at the hills up there in the distance. There's actually a shadow down there on the ground. Beautiful. You'd really have to come out here and try this someday if you can hook a ride with some of these people. There we are, just flying along as graceful and as nicely as can be. Okay, now there's Tim Floyd getting ready to make his landing. We watch him coming in here. There's just like make believe he's just finished barnstorming. He's approaching the runway, and he is touchdown. Beautiful, beautiful. Very nice, safe landing. Okay, we're lining up ourselves now to come in for our landing on approach on runway 24, which actually means 240 degrees. Following behind us here is John Feemster in his little airplane coming in. Look at him, look at that little two-seater there. These aircraft are like flying go-karts. You really got to try it. Here with Blade Doyle, who was kind enough to fly me around the Hollister area. And my biggest problem was I was sitting inside the airplane with a camera to take pictures outside, and my job was to open up this big window and lean all the way out and put the hook in. Well, I didn't open the window. I chickened out, but we did try it when we landed, and I could have done it. But it was an unbelievable thrill. So Blade, tell us something about your airplane and something about how you got into this. What type of flying did you start with?
Well, this is a Rand's Coyote S6. It's a light sport aircraft built in 2006 from a kit, from a manufacturer who supplies kits from Kansas. I started out flying ultralights in 2002. I bought a Weed Hopper ultralight kit from a company in Mississippi, Weed Hopper Incorporated, and I built that in my garage and spent about 300 hours flying it around the Hollister area.
Now an ultralight is just basically like a beach chair and an engine, correct?
It's aluminum tubes, fabric for the wings, and a two-stroke 40 horsepower engine on the front, yeah.
So you say this came from a kit. Did you build it from the kit?
Right, that's right.
Okay, and how long did it take you to build it?
1 weekend. It was extremely simple kit, just a couple of bolts and some fuel tubing for the fuel system.
And how many hours do you have it on it so far?
The ultralight, I put about 250 hours into the flying the ultralight, and then I sold it to fund the purchase of this aircraft.
And then you purchased this one was from a kit, and you purchased it, and you're now renovating and going through it and cleaning it all up?
Yeah, that's correct. I purchased it from a guy who in Auburn, California, who built it from a kit, and I've put some of the finishing touches on it, and at this point I have 500 hours flying it.
And you really enjoy flying around in these minimalist airplanes?
Absolutely, I do. The view is spectacular. The cost is minimal, and the fun is just unbelievable.
Well, thank you, Blade. I have to say that after flying in this we were up for about maybe 45 minutes, and the view you get is just unbelievable. So thanks again, Blade. Thanks for the ride.
Thank you.
As you can see, this is a happy group. They are enthusiastic. They love to eat. They love to build planes. They love to fly. It was a great day, and thanks, everybody. Better Part had a wonderful time.
Don't forget to watch us next week on your favorite station. Thank you.